Good evening. It is February 2nd, 2022. Yes, a Tuesday and all sorts, but let's not get ahead of ourselves when the 22nd of February actually falls on a Tuesday. So that's a real Tuesday. This is the inaugural podcast of the Film Room presented by the Game Book in partnership with Super Draft Pro and in partnership with Caesars Entertainment. Here in the Game Book's two pages on Facebook and on Twitter, as well as YouTube. We stream. We do have live coverage for select games. We cover a little bit of everything when it comes to sports, but we do primarily specialize in the Buffalo Bills coverage, Baltimore Ravens as well with Timmy. We also specialize in sports betting picks, DFS lineups through Super Drafts app, as well as much, much more. And of course, we added into 2022 the addition of Sammy Sports Cards, which has its own Facebook page. And that is my co-host for this evening, actually, Mr. Sam Bone at Slam and Sammy 55 on Twitter. How you doing this evening, Sam?
Very well. Very excited to be a part of this, and I hope that ESPN don't interrupt us anymore.
Regardless, Sam's got a big card break coming up with tons of product. You guys will see an advertisement on Twitter and as well as on Facebook throughout the week. The stream will be done exclusively on Facebook's page with his page, the normal page, I believe, as well, and YouTube, so that way we can have people comment. And it's gonna be a real fun time. I myself am gonna get in on the action. I like to invest in the sports cards. It'll be a lot of fun. Tonight we're going to actually talk about. So this is actually our first non-live show, our first podcast, and I'm excited about doing this. I will be hosting with people like Sam, Craig at Colt, by the way. He'll make appearances on here. Timmy as well, Drew. And we're obviously looking to add some people that are knowledgeable in sports talk and can have a form of entertainment behind them as well. We're a couple of fun guys, a couple of goofballs. So tonight we've got a range of topics. We're going to stick to a lot of Bills news here, and also just some NFL news. A lot of stuff happening today with Brian Flores suing the NFL and the Miami Dolphins for potential discrimination. We're going to get into that later. Of course, the biggest news making the NFL headlines this week was Tom Brady officially retiring on his Instagram after multiple reports came out over the weekend via Adam Schefter. He officially retired on his Twitter, thanking Tampa Bay and their fans, as well as people in the front office and everybody within the organization. And, of course, snubbing the Patriots. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. And what it means, for guys like me and Sam who are fans of teams in the AFC East and have been tormented by him twice a year at least. Sam, I believe, actually faced him in the playoffs, whereas the Bills never did. But still, a lot of pain there. Ken Dorsey was hired as the Bills' offensive coordinator. We'll talk about my thoughts on that and what I think that means for Buffalo's offense moving forward. Today they made a headline for who they hired at quarterback coach. I'll get to that as well. I want to give a congratulations to Brian Dable at some point. And, of course, I have some Super Bowl predictions I'll go over with Sam, and we have all that coming to you. So if you guys are just now checking in, and for new-time listeners, make sure you follow us on Facebook at The Game Book, on Twitter at TGameBook, and on the YouTube page, Gamebook Mafia, I believe. I'll have to find a link for that. But you can search the Gamebook. You'll see the logo that exists in the top corner here of the stream, as well as you'll see that on Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff. You give us a follow, turn the notifications on so you don't miss any of our live coverage. We offer free betting picks and the best lineups. Of course, we do not encourage or endorse any illegal or underage gambling of any sort. We do hand out free picks, free of charge. Bet at your own risk. We also do super draft lineups, and that's again play at your own risk. But we've had a ton of winning opportunities here, which has been really cool. And Sam has had a ton of success, so have I, and it's all been through super draft and things like that. So let's go ahead. Let's talk about it, Sam. Let me ask you your thoughts first, because I just got done blabbing there for a minute. Tom Brady's retiring. 22 seasons, 7 Super Bowl rings, 10 Super Bowl appearances. Tell me your immediate thoughts.
I think this is a long time coming. It wasn't a surprise to me after losing this season. I think his season, his outlook was Super Bowl or nothing, and they didn't make it. So his decision was probably pretty easy. I know he was probably a little disappointed with Schefter leaking it or whoever it is that leaked the retirement. I know that you said earlier this week that he wanted to go out on his own terms and
Yeah,
didn't
but
want
let me ask
anyone
you
to
this,
really.
Sam. Do you believe any of that for any reason was planned? Do you think maybe Brady? I mean, my thoughts are, you think of PR and what it does for your brand. Did Brady intend for it to leak? I mean, stuff like that. You got to think he's got a tight knit crew. I don't see something getting out like that by mistake. But I mean, what do you think?
Maybe they did. Maybe someone said something knowing that his career was coming to an end. Maybe they wanted to get some money. Anything's possible in the world of media. A lot of people are sneaky and want news on anyone, especially someone like that, anyone who's really big to get an inside edge. So you never know. Money talks. But if it was planned, then yeah, you're right. It is a good way for him to get things out and get his name out there and things that he represents outside of football. As if he doesn't already have enough commercials about certain things, like now with the Hertz deal and the whole thing with Subway. So he definitely has his name out there
His
constantly,
own
whether or
brand as
not.
well. TV 12, obviously.
Yeah. So whether or not he planned it or not, I wouldn't be surprised. But I also wouldn't be surprised if people spoke on behalf of getting paid out.
Yeah, and I mean, I tend to agree with you on a lot of those parts. Like I said, okay, so going back to what you were talking about, he did want to go out on his own terms. That's what I fully believe. Okay, I fully believe a quarterback that has had that much success, people can call him the Michael Jordan of football. Obviously a player like that wants to go out on his own terms. I think we all knew it was done. This year was just to see if they could repeat. But after obviously the injuries that happened to Chris Godwin and the inconsistent play from the Buccaneers overall, and more likely possibly losing some coaching over there, and just a whole shift in the organization as a whole, that made it more plausible that he was going to retire. And I mean, if you want to know my immediate thoughts are, it'll be I'm excited that he won't be playing anymore. That's the truth. I mean, hats off to him, respect to him. He's the greatest quarterback to ever play, and I got to witness it. I got to witness it at my own pain. So, what I mean? Like, congratulations. Happy you're done. You played well into your 44 years old, still starting and still healthy and still playing at the highest level is insane. So, hats off again. You leave the game before you take that extra hit. You know what I mean? You keep risking it long enough. And he's a guy that doesn't get hit a ton. It just takes one, especially at a certain age. And that's what I think Giselle Bundchen was probably definitely in his ear a little bit. Like, what more do you have to prove? So again, hats off to him. I'm expecting him to do some kind of announcement, maybe after the Super Bowl or before. Who knows? Maybe the NFL has some sort of commercial for. Who knows? But I'm sure we're going to hear some more words from him, not just an Instagram post. So that's enough about Tom Brady. Let's move on. Sam, I know you don't know a ton about him, but the Bills lost Brian Dable to the New York Giants. They made him the new head coach. He was the offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills during Josh Allen's, start to his career, and basically revamping the Bills offense they had under Tyrod Taylor and Rick Dennison with no success in their first playoff appearance in 17 years. Um, that offense needed to be revamped, and they brought him in. And he's come up through Nick Saban's tree, Bill Belichick's tree, and he's been on Super Bowl team as a coach. I believe he was the tight end coach, and he was also the offensive coordinator for one of Bama's titles. So I'm excited for him career wise to leave. Do I feel like it's a blow? I don't think so, because you went and you hired Ken Dorsey, who I'm going to talk about next. Ken Dorsey has been the quarterback's coach for Josh Allen that has changed his career and taken him to the next level. And of course, his training he does in the offseason with Jordan Palmer, and as well as his desire to work hard and develop has been instrumental. But Ken Dorsey has been a huge factor of it. And of course, people talked about Josh Allen was going to have a say in the offensive coordinator hire. And it's something McDermott came out and said right away. And I fully believe this is who he wanted. This is the only choice. I'm excited about it. Ken Dorsey, if you're instrumental in the quarterback's overall development, and I think maybe we're going to see a little bit more of an air raid style kind of offense from him. I'm excited to see what he brings to the table. I like that it's still coming from within the organization. and it's good to continue and have the continuity in place that's overall so pivotal to a team's success is continuity, and I'm happy that they're going to have Ken Dorsey, where there was a lot of smoke being blown about him going to coach as the OC for Brian Dable, which made no sense to me. I'd rather coach Josh Allen, not even being biased. I'd rather coach Josh Allen than Danny Jones in that situation over there. You know what I mean? And effectively, you could still get those Super Bowl, those head coaching jobs they talk about that he would have more access to should he turn around the New York Giants offense. But I still think you win a Super Bowl with this team. That's all the smoke you need. So I'm happy to be staying with the Bills. And today I mentioned earlier on the show that they hired a new coach to replace him as quarterbacks coach, and that's none other than Joe Brady. And I'm gonna real quick about Joe Brady. He was um, he was hired as the Panthers offensive coordinator in 2020, but had fired midway through the team's buyout on Sunday of Week 13. So I mean, like but granted, no McCaffrey, I'm pretty sure. Um, no quarterback really at that situation. It just like what do you blame him for? The Panthers are obviously trying to continue to revamp everything in that situation. So whatever. I don't hold that against Joe Brady. But quick shout out to Mike Smith, Iron Mike Smith. He's the one that asked for it. He made a post about this is what I asked for. And I don't know if we'll get him, but we did. He was also an offensive assistant with Saints in 2017 and 2018. But the most notable tenure he was the passing coordinator for LSU's offense the year that they won the national title in 2019, and Joe Burrow had the greatest college quarterback season in history of college football, and the most incredible season overall, playing extremely well in that title game. So that's kind of great to see. A guy that's good with quarterbacks and passing will serve as an assistant to Ken Dorsey in a Buffalo offense that I don't expect to change too much, but I am excited to see how they go about the change. So it's enough of that, Sam. Let's get into something that you and I can both talk about again. And that's, I'm sure you've heard about the news about Brian Flores officially filing lawsuits against the NFL. I believe the Miami Dolphins. Um, I want to pull this up real quick just to make sure that my facts are straight about his lawsuit. But all this is coming also with proof of mis-exchanged text messages between Bill Belichick, coach of the New England Patriots, and him, where Belichick was trying to text Brian Dable, but texted the wrong Brian, and he texted Brian Flores. And it was something about saying, thinking he's texting Dable, saying, "I heard that you're New York's guy, that you got the job." He hadn't even interviewed yet. Versus Flores had interviewed. Of course, there's the Rooney Rule, where you have to interview two minority candidates at least. But saying basically they already knew who they were going to hire before they even gave you a shot. So there's news about him, as well as Hugh Jackson just coming out, former coach for the Cleveland Browns, who had 2 wins in his entire career over there in Cleveland. Yeah, he's filing it against the NFL and its teams, accusing them of sham interviews, incentivizing losses, where he alleged that Miami's owner Stephen Ross was willing to pay $100,000 per loss, telling him to go take a vacation. You could have asked me to do it for $50,000 and I would have done it at that fucking rate. I mean, you need a loss, I got you. First down, all right, punt team. You know what? Bring out the hands team for kickoff.
Third down, quick kick. Shotgun? Nope, we're booting it.
Pooch kick, baby. Get the fullback in. Tony's playing fullback tonight.
Game winning field goal? Nope, line drive at the center's head.
So he's alleging this against at least the Giants, Dolphins, and the Denver Broncos, of course. Now, there's got to be more to it, and I'm sure it will come to light if there's obviously any sort of truth to this. And I'm not saying there's no truth to it. I actually want to know your opinion, Sam. Do you think the NFL and its owners, and I hate to talk about these topics, but it's what's going on right now. Do they hate? Is there still deep racism that exists in billionaire dollar owners?
Yeah, it's still old money that sits in the NFL for ownership. I mean, take a look at some of the owners who have been around, not only as owning the team as long as they have, but just how long they've been alive. Look at Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen African American coach for Dallas, as far as I'm concerned, as being a head coach. As long as he's around, that would just completely fathom him, I'm sure. There's quite a few teams that it runs deep with. I can go on and on, but we won't have to get into that because it's pretty clear cut that there is something going on and has been for quite a while. And this goes out to Roger Goodell too. I think Roger Goodell has a little bit of an influence on that. A lot of people might think, well, that's kind of weird. How could you know that? Well, if you can't really sense too much that goes on in the NFL since the whole Kaepernick thing, I think it's pretty obvious that that shook him to the core, and he had no idea how to handle it. And since I'm sure he has close politician ties to quite possibly the Trump Pence team in 2016 when they campaigned and won their presidency, I think that kind of had a lot of influence with it. I think that had some background music. They definitely had something going on, saying something to them, because it's a little weird the way Goodell handles certain things in the NFL. It's a way, it's
Yeah,
weird how the
certain
NFL handles.
certain scandals and certain crimes that happen. It definitely. And the reason Roger Goodell still is employed as the commissioner of the NFL, of course, Sam and you and I both know it, and I'm pretty sure anybody that's a true fan of the sport knows it, that Goodell makes the owners a lot of money. When he became commissioner, the amount of money the NFL started to generate for the owners went through the fucking roof. So that's why he's still employed. But he's a shitty commissioner. Him and Rob, I honestly, as terrible as Rob Manfred is, I cannot stand Roger Goodell. He's a fucking clown, and he does not represent the way that, because in a sense, as the commissioner of the NFL, you are a politician. You control something that's a huge impact on the entire world, not just the United States. Well, a huge impact on the United States, but also the world. So I definitely do think there's still some deep rooted like racism that exists. I think that there's still. I don't want to get into it too much because I don't truly know how much of it does exist, but it clearly does. I mean, you see this right here. Now, I want more evidence to come to light from Brian Flores and Hugh Jackson, who now says that he was basically incentivized as well to have losing seasons for the Cleveland Browns, where he's not going to get any sort of coaching job, it looks like, at all in the NFL. And so you want to see more facts come to light. Obviously, this just made news today. Brian Flores started it, and there's some stuff that involves the Buffalo Bills, but I don't want to read into it too much because I don't know what all the facts are, and I'd rather check into that. Of course, we'll bring more towards that as time goes on. Here throughout the podcast, as well as the video will be released on YouTube and Facebook shortly after the recording is done, so you guys can always check in with that if you have time to sit down. Another quick shout out to some people real quick. Greg Rawlings over at We Don't Know Sports. Him and Josh Wright, both awesome people, great content, in their subgroups with the America's Pastime and Football is Life. It's just like great groups, with former pro athletes, tons of cool stuff. So, of course, Josh Wright, Greg Rawlings over there, and, of course, Clad Colt on Facebook and Twitch at Clad Colt. And on the Whatnot app for the most fire Pokemon breaks at Clad Colt as well. And hopefully soon, Sammy Sports Cards, which honestly, we all know it's a process, but it's something I know Sam has looked forward to, and it's been boosting him up and morale-wise. I'm excited about it as well. And we look forward to bringing that to you guys. Hopefully, at least once per weekend. We'll see how it goes this weekend. I'm thinking it's going to be a great turnout. You know what I mean? From the talks we've had and from people we've spoken to, people are excited. And I can see why, Sam. So that's good. But again, back to the whole head coaching thing. Let's see more facts come to light. I definitely could see it on Brian Flores' part because I still don't understand the reason for firing him, and I don't think he ever. I think that he probably did get incentivized to lose these games, and I mean, I'm honestly honored about the fact that he didn't do it on purpose. He didn't, you know what I mean? Which is really, you think about how screwed up that is. That's toying with bets, basically. That's almost fixing games, fixing outcomes of a season. there's a lot of potential criminal acts that could be pursued, via this stuff. So that's why it's a touchy subject, but it's something worth noting as the week goes on and as we near the Pro Bowl this weekend, which I won't be watching, and no one honestly should, but also the Super Bowl to play a week from Sunday, featuring two different quarterbacks, of course, Joe Burrow and Matt Stafford. A little bit of a surprise to a lot of people that Joe Burrow was able to surpass the Chiefs and the Chiefs collapsed the way they did. And the Bengals stood tall and they found themselves in the Super Bowl in Joe Burrow's second year as a quarterback in the NFL and coming off of a season-ending ACL injury last year. So, Sam, let me come talk to you about some Super Bowl predictions because I've thought about it so many different ways. It is so hard to see how this game is going to go. So why don't you tell us exactly what you think is going to happen?
Well, you look at a team in Cincinnati who is very young still, but also has a lot of poise with one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, which if you have a great offensive line or a top tier offensive line, that pretty much guarantees you to be a top 3, top 4 team, regardless of who your running back is, because of how much protection you get. And with some good wide receivers that Cincinnati has, like Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd, that definitely increases them to get more open. They have a lot of athleticism and just great hands to match. Now, something that's going to be interesting in this game is the Rams do have a very good defensive line. Aaron Donald is going to be going against a great offensive line, like I just said. It's one of the best in the NFL, if not the best. So it's going to be pretty fun to see that matchup.
Wait, the Bengals offensive line?
They're one of the best lines in the NFL.
No, they are not, bro. Have you seen how many times Joe Burrow got sacked against Kansas City? And that's not even close to the elite pass rush, bro. He got sacked like 7 times. He's one of the most sacked quarterbacks in football.
They hype him up all the time. Every single game, the last 4 or 5 games.
They're lying, and I don't mean to snap at you. I'm just saying, because it's something
that's not my words.
That they need to correct as their offensive line, and I mean they played better as of late, I guess you could say. But going back to what you're saying, I've said it time and time again, and I'll say it again. The Rams have the best 4-man pass rush in the NFL. They're just like you can send 4 and you can really get after the quarterback. So I mean, Joe Burrow has been in some big moments, and this is the biggest of them all. And he's performed in all those big moments, and he's proven to me that he is still young. I don't know if I necessarily see him being a perfect quarterback because you cannot turn the football over to a team that's got a pretty solid run game. If Cam Akers is playing, I don't know, but I know Sony Michel has been pretty good as of late. And obviously the best 1-2 punch with Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp this year. And then you got Odell Beckham playing really good as of late too. No Higbee, he's on the line right now, but like he's got a sprained MCL. So how much of a factor is he going to be? Whatever. Doesn't matter. You find the next man up, and they have the other tight end, I think 81. I don't even know who he is, but or 86, but he scored a little bit against Tampa Bay. So we'll see. I just think that Matt Stafford's a little bit older, a little bit more wise, and just gonna maybe be a little bit more poised because I think he's never had this kind of opportunity before, and it's cool to see him in his first year with a different team outside of Detroit after dedicating his loyalty to there, being the number 1 pick out of Georgia, years ago. I mean, and him and Calvin Johnson were the only hope that team ever had, and it's a shame to see, but it's great to see that all paid off, and he's in the big game, and I think he's going to execute. The Rams open up as a 4.5 point favorite, Sam. You think the Bengals cover that, or what do you think?
Well, the Bengals have always been pretty surprising this whole season, the way they score. I know the Rams are a pretty good defense, but the Super Bowl, everything changes in the Super Bowl. We've seen it in the past. Some New England teams that were very, very dominant looked not so dominant against teams that barely even made the playoffs, like the Giants, for example.
Went against really good defenses. Those Giants defenses were really good. Really good.
Yeah. And their offenses did really well for not being as productive as they used to be in the regular season. They kind of just sparked. But the Super Bowl, it just brings out something in people. It's something that if you've never been there before, which pretty much every single player, other than a few Rams players from the New England matchup a couple of years back, they were there. But other than that, a lot of them are pretty new to it, so it really does create something different. It turns you into a different beast. So anything is possible. But I just hope it's a close game. But I think the Rams are going to have a good chance to get the Joe Burrow some, but I think he's going to be smart and really try to do the Tom Brady approach and get the ball out quickly. I don't see him holding it too long. I think the strategy is going to be for them to get it out quick and make sure that they don't get their routes cut because the Rams play pretty much man with having Jalen Ramsey and just some of the more seasoned veterans on that team. That's going to probably be a big factor is age, being around longer, knowing
Breaking
more
news, by
schemes.
the way. Breaking news, since we're on the topic of the LA Rams, the Minnesota Vikings are expected to hire Rams offensive coordinator Kevin O'Connell to be the next head coach. Crazy news coming out of there as they have interviewed Jim Harbaugh, and it sounded like he wanted the job, but I guess they didn't want. And it's crazy because Jim Harbaugh was at this interview on National Signing Day, so that doesn't bode very well. But that's crazy because now you wonder, will the Rams offense have the correct? Now we saw this happen with the Atlanta Falcons. Shanahan, and so he knows he's going to the 49ers to be their next head coach, and ultimately their play calling and performance in the second half. We all know how that went. Which none of that play calling made any sense to me. Why they stopped running the football with all the success they had and the lead they had, it made no sense. So it makes you wonder, what will go on for the Rams. But this is also their second Super Bowl in the last 4 years, I believe. Yeah, playing against Brady in one of the dumbest Super Bowls I've ever seen. I forget what the score was. It's still so stupid.
13-3.
Yeah. Anyway, so it just you definitely know that Aaron Donald and the defense are going to come ready to play. I'm excited about the Jamar Chase versus Jalen Ramsey matchup. I think you're too young if you're Cincinnati, and at this point, some of these guys have been in these big games for the LA Rams. And Joe Burrow, didn't exactly play his best against Kansas City. He played good enough, but that's not going to get it done against a defense like the Rams with as consistent of an offense as they have, regardless if they had, the offensive coordinator taking a job somewhere else. The over-under, by the way, is 48.5. So I'm kind of liking the Rams money line. I know it doesn't pay as well. I really like the Rams to win this game. If the spread moves to 5.5, I might take that for Cincinnati plus 5.5. I really see it being within 3 or 4. That's my opinion. But it just all I when it comes to the over under at 48.5, Sam, I'm torn on it. And I think it's maybe going to be on the under. A little bit of a better defensive matchup, a little bit of struggles from both quarterbacks, possibly. So I'm liking Bengals in the under. I'll have to take a look at previous years and see too. And of course, I'll give out, my most up to date picks probably on Saturday or Sunday before the game. And make sure you guys check in with us on Facebook and YouTube for those free betting picks that we provide. Also on Twitter, you can catch those as well. 80% accuracy from me on NBA over-unders and tons of accuracy from Gage's hockey picks. He's about 77% the last 2 weeks. Awesome. Timmy, too, with his college and his NBA picks have been on fire. And, of course, Sammy Sports Cards with his upcoming break is absolutely going to be on fire. Make sure to join us there on Facebook and YouTube. And I think that's going to do it for us on the podcast tonight. And, of course, I'm the host, the Bills Mafia Sauce God. You can follow me on A-Bomb Sauce God as well as the overall page at T Gamebook. And on Facebook at Gamebook Mafia is the, Facebook.com/Gamebook Mafia. You can find us with the logo that is usually featured on all of our streams. Find us on YouTube at Gamebook Mafia, also known as the Gamebook with a capital G and capital B. And this is the Film Room podcast presented by the Gamebook in partnership with Super Draft Pro and in partnership with Caesar Entertainment. And also the Gamebook Sammy Sports Cards for the best trading card breaks, buy and sell, and much, much more. Sam, I'd like to thank you as well, my co-host Sam Bone at Slam and Sammy 55. Appreciate you for stopping in, giving us a little insight. And of course, I look
Anytime.
forward to going on Saturday. Check in with us on Twitter. Turn those notifications on, guys. God bless and have a good rest of your evening. And look forward to more.